happening, Magnet Sites? Get over and follow Nerdrotic. Tell Tyrone Magnus sent you. And, see, I'd heard about, was it a few months back that Emma Watson had been talking slick about JK Rowling. Excuse me, I think it was with all the trans stuff going on. Even a couple of the other actors might have ran their mouth. So she's going scorched earth, huh? Let's check this out.
.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million muggles in the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. I've had a working theory that JK Rowling, who doesn't need any money, decided to go ahead with the Harry Potter TV show partially.
I want to hear her say her name. Is it Rowling or Rowling? You know what I mean? I'd like to know.
Not solely to erase Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson from the story. That might explain why some of the costuming and the sets in the TV show look so similar to the films. It'll make it easier for them to pluck out Emma and Daniel and plop in the new actors on all the merchandising and in the theme parks. And with a lot of the casting, maybe that theory was close to being correct, in my head anyway. That was, of course, until Black Snape. But maybe that was a sacrifice JK was willing to make. Because, once again, I'm here to report on the resulting find out of the around. We're not going to bury the lead on this one, because today, prolific author and creator...
The find out of the... I like that.
...of Harry Potter, JK Rowling, and you can insert your YouTube title here, either nuked Emma Watson from orbit, or went scorched earth on Emma Watson, or Avada Kedavra Emma Watson from the astronomy tower.
Why aren't you all copying this down?
Because Emma Watson, who played Hermione Granger in the films and who has also been on a bit of a break from acting, decided to resurface on a podcast and reopen some old wounds. And let's just say that was ill-advised. And just for a brief recap, just in case some of you were living under a rock for the last 5 years, no judgment, by the way, it's all over J.K. Rowling's views on one particular issue, which is...
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
And as you may or may not know, Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson over the past few years have taken multiple opportunities to throw the woman under the night bus who is responsible for their careers. Now, Rupert Grint, who plays Ron Weasley, has made his comments as well, but they weren't as bad, but I'm not sure that makes much of a difference.
See, I told you it was her, Emma Watson, and a couple other actors ran their mouth. I told you.
JK Rowling, who posted this back in March in response to the question, what actor/actress instantly ruins a movie for you? 3 guesses. Sorry, that was irresistible. So now that some time has passed and it's not so in vogue to pile on JK Rowling anymore, probably because her views were never wrong to begin with, and it also has something to do with the cultural shift and this trend dying down violently. As previously mentioned, Emma Watson came out of hiding and went on a podcast a couple of days ago, and it appears that she kind of changed her tune. Now, before you hear this, I want to preface this by stating you are going to hear the verbal equivalent of somebody walking over a field of landmines.
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe and the person that I had personal experiences with. I will never believe that one negates the other, and that my experience of that person I don't get to keep and cherish. To come back to our earlier thing, I just don't think these things are either or. It's my deepest wish. I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion with. I guess where I've landed is it's not so much what we say or what we believe, but very often how we say it that's really important, and that's really frustrating and not what you want to hear when you're really angry and upset with someone. I don't know, I just see this world right now where we seem to be giving permission for this kind of like throwing out of people, or that people are disposable. I just believe that no one's disposable. Everyone, as far as possible, whatever the conversation is, should and can be treated with, at the very least, dignity and respect.
What you just said is one of the most...
There was a whole lot of eggshell walking in that statement that she made.
Insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything
What
that could be
movie is this
considered a
from?
rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Well, that was a very long-winded, incoherent, professional adult pretender way of saying we can agree to disagree. But she can't even say
Yeah.
that because all of her allies would turn on her in a moment. You know, people like you, Emma, and I would argue maybe you should have led with this, but that Hogwarts Express has left the station. Now, JK Rowling did respond, and it was coherent, thoughtful, and savage. JK starts out by saying that no actor owes her any allegiance because they were in something that she created. Emma Watson and her co-stars have every right to embrace gender identity ideology. Such beliefs are legally protected, and I wouldn't want to see any of them threatened with loss of work or violence or death because of them, like JK Rowling was. However, Emma and Dan in particular have both made it clear over the last few years that they think our former professional association gives them the particular right, nay obligation, to critique me and my views in public. Years after they finished acting in Potter, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. In other words, you're a couple of ungrateful whelps who were nothing more than contracted workers who memorized reinterpreted lines from my source material, and you can feel free to piss off now.
Pretty much.
But then JK gets into what really stung, that very deliberate jab from Emma Watson at the BAFTAs.
There's that clip of her at the BAFTAs, and it was just kind of like a really...
It's one of those things, too. It's like if you know her personally, it's something you can talk to. You can message her about, you can call her about. And that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I've experienced it and all this other stuff. Is that you start meeting people in the industry, in entertainment. There are people that are only there to get what they can get from you. They want to use you. They will stab you in the back. They will say anything that they can publicly, while in private saying that they're your friend. But they'll publicly do things that clearly show that you have no relationship whatsoever. You have to. And I bet you it was like that with them. I bet you that as big as that franchise was, they probably had some type of relationship with her to where they could call her, talk to her, email her, text her, get a hold of her, if there was anything that they needed to say to her. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, you see all these people putting this public stuff out, they were using people. I'm telling you, you know what I mean? You see it happen with friendships, relationships, working relationships where people are around each other all the time. And it's like you have respect for each other, at least you thought. And they're stabbing each other in the backs, writing memoirs, all this other stuff. I'm telling you, I do not trust a lot of people in this damn entertainment industry.
Snidey. There's that bit where she says, "I'm here for all the witches," like, but one or what? Yeah, it was just nasty.
Yeah, I'm here for all of the witches.
Now, it appears at the end there she said, "by the way," instead of "except for one," but Emma has never denied that was a jab. JK goes on, "In truth, that was the turning point for me, but it had a postscript that hurt far more than the speech itself. Emma asked somebody to pass on a handwritten note from me to her, which contained the single sentence, 'I'm sorry for what you're going through.' She has my phone number. This was back when the death, assault, and torture..."
What did I just get done talking about? She has her phone number. If there was something, see? Watch out, entertainers. Watch out. These people can call each other and discuss this on the phone if they're really friends, if they're really close. Even acquaintances can do that. Acquaintances in normal life don't do this stuff to each other. You know what I mean? They're cool and they have each other's phone. "Yo, what's up, man? How you doing? Hey, listen, someone to talk to you about happened." Yeah. What? So tell me what happened so I can understand this properly. "Oh, okay, yeah, because I thought this and that. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? They're not going to go for views and clicks. You know what I mean? Getting views off of your name and clicks off of your name and trying to get brownie points and hoping they can get people to think they're so great and all this other stuff by trying to make other people look bad when they could just call these people on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, come on now.
Threats against me were at their peak. Emma had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness.
But wait! There's more!
Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. Then JK goes on to rattle off some of the things that Emma Watson thankfully will not have to experience. Like,
some people really are ignorant of what they're ignorant of. They just don't know. And I think it's better if you're ignorant of something like certain things before you're going to speak publicly to lash out at someone. It's better to err on just not saying anything at all. Now your mom, and a lot of us, it's our grandmothers, used to say, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. You know what I mean? That way you just, and then take in all the information that you can before you speak to that person privately. All right?
homeless shelters, assault crisis centers, and women's prisons. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. The greatest irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed that full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was. I might have never been this honest. And again, Emma Watson wasn't the only one to rush to distance herself from JK Rowling and passive-aggressively pile on her 5 years ago when she made the very controversial yet scientifically accurate statements about biology. Rupert Grint basically called her his crazy auntie, which honestly isn't that bad. Alfred Enoch, who was Dean Thomas, distanced himself.
Depends on how he said it. Because if he said it in a very, I don't know, dismissive way, or to make it sound like anything that comes out of her mouth now is just ludicrous or something like that. You know, it all depends on how he said it, you know. If I was JK Rowling, I just can't see anyone calling me their crazy auntie being not that bad. You know what I mean? I would have to see his quote.
As well, and then there was the aforementioned Daniel Radcliffe.
It makes me really sad, ultimately. I do look at the person that I met.
Auntie, which honestly isn't that bad. Alfred Enoch.
Who played Dean Thomas?
Who was Dean Thomas, distanced himself as well. And then there was the aforementioned Daniel Radcliffe.
It makes me really sad, ultimately. I do look at the person that I met, the times that we met, and the books that she wrote, and the world that she created, and all of that is to me so deeply empathic. Radcliffe previously wrote a statement supporting the trans community for the Trevor Project in 2020, saying in part, to all the people who now feel that their experience of the books has been tarnished.
I know he did no role like that. What is
for
this?
The pain these comments have caused you.
While it doesn't absolve the adult pretenders of their responsibility, we certainly can't leave out the Access media, who was certainly put on the flames. Just listen how they frame JK Rowling's views in this.
Rowling recently wrote on social media saying she would not forgive those who have supported trans healthcare.
I don't think she's ever come out against trans healthcare unless you include this.
Celebs who cozied up to a movement intent on eroding women's hard-won rights and who use their platforms to cheer on the transitioning of minors can save their apologies for traumatized detransitioners and vulnerable women reliant on single-sex spaces.
Then there are the actors who have supported JK, or at least not completely shit on her, like Tom Felton, Jason Isaacs, Helen Bonham Carter, Ralph Fiennes, and the late great Robbie Coltrane, who said this: I don't think what she said was offensive, really. There's a whole generation of people waiting around to be offended. They wouldn't have won the war, would they? And you know who else supports J.K. Rowling in her views? the vast majority of the general public, and that's reflected in this thing we call reality. Some of you may recall that there was a narrative back in 2021 that JK Rowling's views had affected her book sales.
Oh.
Well, in 2018, it was reported that she sold 500 million books in total, and by 2023, that number went up to 600
Wow.
million. So I'm guessing that's not exactly true. Let's consider the evidence anecdotally. At Barnes & Noble, a book chain here in America, she has the largest section of merchandise and books of any author. Hogwarts Legacy was a best-selling video game that definitely benefited from the failed boycott. The Wizarding Worlds at Universal Studios Hollywood and Orlando are constantly packed, and it's not unusual to wait 3 hours to ride Hagrid. Oh, and they just expanded with the Epic Universe within Universal Epic Universe at Universal Orlando Resort. Say that 10 times fast. According to the bookseller, Pottermore Publishing enjoyed a record year as revenues increased to 48.8 million. And that's British pounds, proper money. Regal just ran a Back to Hogwarts marathon where you could have watched all the Harry Potter movies. You can also watch them on HBO and Peacock. There's a brand new Harry Potter audio series for Audible starting this November with a full cast that, in some aspects, is better than the TV show. No offense to John Lithgow, but Hugh Laurie is Dumbledore? Hell yeah. And yes, while not perfect, Riz Ahmed is much better casting as Snape than Pape Asiato as Black Snake. Speaking of that, yes, there is the Harry Potter series heading to HBO in 2027, which had the potential of being the biggest show on that network or streamer or whatever the hell you call them since Game of Thrones at its peak. I'm not ashamed to say I'm a massive fan of Harry Potter, and I can acknowledge that it is the millennials' Star Wars. It is the biggest franchise out there that has the least damage. That's why it's absolutely inexplicable and baffling that they would make such a stupid decision as to cast Black Snape. Forget all the controversy with JK Rowling. This is the one thing that jeopardizes that show. Got nothing against Papa Asiato as an actor or a person, and I think he would make a great Kingsley Shacklebolt, but not a very good Snape. I can't wait to see that first promotional picture, and the only question I have is...
That's how it is. Look, if you're not going to cast people that are the characters, then don't do it. We're still in the day and age where everybody's checking a box for something. You know what I mean? It's not the days of the first Daredevil movie. You know what I mean? Kingpin was a black man, and everybody was okay with it because people knew that they were trying out something different, and he truly embodied the physicality of who the Kingpin was. Okay, he just wasn't white. It worked. You know what I mean? I didn't hear anybody snapping and flipping out about the idea of Marlon Wayans being Robin in one of the Batman movies when they were toying with that. No one was talking about that, and there's other situations, and like the Flash with Iris and Kid Flash, and I didn't hear none of this stuff then. You know what I mean? And it was a time when people were just trying out different things and doing alternate universes and different takes on stuff, and people weren't. But once people found out that there was an agenda behind it, and that was the reason why. And so, in addition to you race swapping people, they were gender swapping, sexuality swapping, and pushing a certain agenda. All of that wrapped in one. If people see any one of those things, they're automatically irritated. It's not even the fact that you're doing it anymore. It's the fact that you're doing it for how many people see is just the wrong reasons. You're doing it to fake pander, to say, look what we've done. And people don't care. They just want the character. They want the real character embodied as much as possible in that actor. And you're not doing it. And it's driving people insane. And that's the reason why Ballerina didn't work. That's the reason why Furiosa didn't work. And both of them were not girl boss movies. But because people are so used to it now, you've trained people to think that they're all going to be girl boss movies now, that people aren't interested in it. And it happens when you gender swap, it happens when you race swap, it happens when you sexuality swap. People don't want to hear it no more. Keep on doing it.
Will he have straight hair? Because if he does, that means Snape straightens his hair. And while the female Voldemort rumor is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think it's true, you can't blame people for believing it after Black Snape. But not to worry, Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, you might actually get what you want. Depending on the success of the TV show, you guys might no longer be the faces of Harry Potter. Therefore, you won't have to worry as much about that association with JK Rowling. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard,
I hope they end up casting a female Voldemort. I just want to see the fandom. I want to see what they say. See, because I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I've watched all the movies and I enjoyed myself. I thought that they were all good. I didn't think any of them were bad. I thought they were all good, but I wasn't hooked. You know what I mean? By the way, I'm a Slytherin. Yeah, I know. People think I would be something else. I'm the same as Merlin, the greatest wizard of all time. A Slytherin. But, yeah, it just didn't grab me like that. And, you know, if a new movie came out, I would watch it again. But knowing what this series is going to be, I'm most likely not going to watch it. If it came out tomorrow, I'm not watching it. I already know what they're doing. They're already doing the same dumb stuff that they've been doing. I have no interest in watching it at all. Who knows? Maybe by 2027 I will. 10 million subscribers.